first of all, I've got my first guest on the end of the line. It's, say, a very good afternoon to Kris Gibson. Hi, Kris, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Buoyed in the certain knowledge that enforceable law is on the side of 50s women.
Exactly.
And that Cedaw law has a great deal of support, not only nationally but also internationally. So you won't keep me down for long.
Right, it's good to have you on the phone again. We've spoken before, and it's good to have you on the phone again. Just wanted to start off with Torsten Bell, who replaced Emma Reynolds as Minister for Pensions the day before a debate to discuss compensation for 1950s women, again rejected WASP's board's claim for compensation based on maladministration and not enforceable law on side all 1950s women. So I wanted to ask you, Kris, does this omission make sense to you?
Not at all, as it doesn't make sense to any 50s women, I would suggest. In the first place, the rejection of the Ombudsman's report makes a mockery of the whole process. But the most glaring omission for me was in the failure to respond to the call made by John McDonnell in the debate the other day for mediation as a means to resolve the issue, which is something that Cedaw law have long been calling for. And especially as the new civil procedure rules clearly support such an approach in cases of dispute. And nor was there any recognition by Torsten Bell of proven discrimination as a central issue in the 50s women's case, although it did get a mention from some of the speakers within the debate. No mention of the judge's report that found both direct and indirect discrimination and ongoing maladministration in the case. The fact is that who knew what and when, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of other 50s women, is a complete distraction from the real issue. It's always been about lifelong discrimination, which has harshly and cruelly been exacerbated by the rapid changes to state pension age, which targeted an already disadvantaged group to bear the entire brunt of the changes. I mean, I don't know what you think, Ian. Would 50s women have fought this long and in such numbers and expended this much time and energy on campaigning if they had only suffered from a minor inconvenience?
No, I
don't think so.
No, I think you're right there. It's they wouldn't have done that if it had been minor, would they?
No, of course not. And the promise from the Ombudsman of between 900 and 2,950, that wouldn't even touch the size of the losses that 50s women have made. And it's not only the rapid changes to the state pension age, it's also that successive governments have piled change upon change on 50s women. And nearly all of it is more detrimental to women than to men. I mean, we can give you lots of examples. The removal of the promise of auto credits that 9.8 million men had access to over a lengthy period of time. Halving of widows' pensions, changes in eligibility to pension credit. It's ridiculous that anyone who is on over £11,368 a year can't claim pension credit and therefore can't claim the winter fuel payment either now. That is less than half of the minimum wage. It's ridiculous.
Now, I want to move on to the next question. What must WASPI do next?
Well, mediation appears to be very popular with WASPI members, as there were well over 1,000 likes when they published on their own Facebook page John McDonnell's call for mediation. They have been invited many times to join with Cedaw law in support of this approach, but have so far insisted on seeing their complaint, which has been reduced to only partial maladministration by the Ombudsman, They've insisted on seeing it through, but it's resulted in ever diminishing returns, it seems to me, and repeated rejection. They do seem to be reaching the end of the road. I think David Henke said this almost a year ago. But at least WASPI boards seem to have accepted that discrimination has always been a factor, as they published recently Sorcha Eastwood's very welcome comments in the debate last week, pointing out that 50s women have been discriminated against by the statutory provisions over their lifetimes, such as the gender pay gap. And I think 50s women could list many other examples of discrimination through statutory provision, particularly in regard to pensions, where they've never had the same opportunities as men and still don't. So CEDAW-in-Law is wondering, why would any group or stakeholder not utilise enforceable UK and international laws to mediate the best outcome for all concerned, when an expert team of mediators is on standby to be considered for the neutral role? So will the WASPI board now get behind the joint campaign for mediation alongside CEDAW-in-Law, with all groups properly recognised?
Yeah. Now, what must the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions and MPs do now?
Well, as far as the Secretary of State's concerned, the legal team for CEDAW-in-Law some time ago found that the refusal by the former Secretary of State for Work and Pensions to attend mediation talks with CEDAW-in-Law was unlawful. So this places the current Secretary of State for Work and Pensions in jeopardy of a clear case being found against her unless she accepts the reasonable invitation to mediation out of CEDAW-in-Law's postponed judicial review. So I'd better leave the legal stuff to Jocelyn. I'm sure she'll have a lot more to say about it. Well, the clear problem with MPs seems to be that they must recognise that lifelong discrimination has impacted on 50s women. Many of them have previously recognised this in early day motions that hundreds of them have signed, and the 90 who signed up for the Alternative Dispute Resolution Group that was started by Sir George Howarth, which included 7 party leaders and also Debbie Abrahams, who's the chair of the Work and Pensions Subcommittee. She also signed 2 of the early day motions that clearly recognise discrimination and the profound impact on 50s women. And a couple of the early day motions she signed actually called for alternative dispute resolution, and in one case for a temporary special measure, which is a legal means to provide restitution. And I think, again, Jocelyn can explain that far better than I would. Yeah. But until Parliament addresses proven discrimination, justice will not have been served. The Parliamentary Ombudsman did not consider discrimination in any way. And I'd just like to add that Plato once said the worst kind of justice is pretended justice. And it seems to me that MPs are just playing at the moment with justice. Well, when are they going to realise that they cannot salve their consciences by playing at pretended justice through support for the Ombudsman, when they really need to tackle the actual issue, which has always been discrimination? And, of course, the most obvious and by far the fastest route to resolution would be through mediation. And incidentally, tomorrow there's an event that 50s women might be interested in listening into, which is the Pensioner Poverty Inquiry. It takes place tomorrow the 22nd at 9:30 in front of the Work and Pensions Committee. And CEDAW-in-Law, as you might expect, have submitted extensive evidence to that inquiry, so maybe worth listening in 9:30 tomorrow.
Right, is that you can get that on the internet, I assume?
Yes, Parliament Live.
Yeah.
On the internet, yeah.
Yeah. I watched the other debate, or I listened to the other debate that was done the other day in Parliament on, I think it was last Wednesday, and we hope that these things raise the profile even more of the issue for 50s women.
Yes, that's right. I mean, Rebecca Long-Bailey mentioned in her contribution in the debate last week that this has been a state-level injustice, and the state cannot shirk from its obligations under the law, even if money is tight. Favourite quotation of Cedar in Laws is Lady Hale saying that the fundamental principles of equal treatment can't depend upon how much money happens to be available in the public coffers. If it's an injustice, it's an injustice, and it has to be dealt with. I mean, there was an idea came through in that debate about a hardship fund. It just needs knocking on the head and kicked into the long grass. Which other injustice has been subjected to means testing? And if you've used all your savings and sold your home, how do you make a claim against a hardship fund when the bar is set so low as to deny even pension credit and winter fuel payment from those on the full state pension, and that might be their only income? You might not be in absolute poverty as defined by this and previous governments, but you're certainly not going to be enjoying the kind of retirement that you planned and saved for. So it's just yet more discrimination and certainly an injustice.
Oh, Kris, thank you very much. It's been great to talk to you again today. And we're going to have a track that I know we've played it before you, but I wondered if you'd like to introduce it. Oh,
it's one that's very dear to my heart and quite an old one, which I remember well from my youth. You Don't Own Me by Leslie Gore.